This video is about racial performativity. Before we dive into what that means, it is important to understand that race is a social construct. It is a human-invented classification system that was designed to separate people based on physical differences. But it also causes a lot of violence and oppression because it favors white features and devalues non-white features. Our society has built institutions like schools, prisons, and law enforcement that revolve around race. But race itself is not an accurate concept. These systems, which perpetuate distinctions between races, teach us that people with light skin tones are good, attractive, and trustworthy, and people with darker skin tones are bad, unattractive, and untrustworthy. I am here to talk about how people in society perform race to navigate their positionality in racial hierarchies and manage the way others perceive them racially. You might be asking yourself, how can someone perform race? It's helpful for me to think about it in a similar way to Judith Butler's concept of gender performativity. Judith Butler is a renowned feminist theorist who argues that people act like their prescribed gender not because it is how they would act naturally, but because society teaches them to do so. A common example is when a young boy is teased for acting too girly. His gender presentation is being reinforced through punishment, and he might act less girly, regardless of whether that is natural for him or not. Racial performativity is essentially the same concept. People in society are policed by those around them to act, talk, dress, and look a certain way. People of color are very often reprimanded and told to speak properly, dress better, or change their natural hair or eye colors because it would make them more attractive to other people in society. The ways in which people in society act to either fit into these expectations or break away from them all falls under racial performativity. Professor Naya Kelete-May from the University of Waterloo explains that people perform racial identities based on the communities they are trying to gain access to. For example, I am a mixed race, half Asian and half white woman in America. In some environments, perhaps when I am surrounded by Japanese friends and community, I may be more inclined to speak Japanese, wear Japanese clothing, or do Japanese makeup. However, in other environments where I'm not surrounded by my Japanese peers and I am not seeking any acceptance from a Japanese community, an example is a school where that is predominantly white, I may perform more of my white identity, not wear Japanese clothing, not use Japanese makeup, and not speak Japanese, instead speak English and wear American-style clothing. This is a way that I can perform my racial identity differently in different ways. Here are some examples of racial performativity. Changing your physical appearance, perhaps through hair, eye color, or the way you dress. Engaging in language. For non-English speakers, speaking native languages more or less often to connect or distance yourself from communities. Code switching is also relevant. Choosing friends is also important. Perhaps you're choosing white friends to fit in, or POC friends to establish connection to your identity, or distance yourself from whiteness. Likes and interests are also very important. And cultural knowledge, including history, food, and cultural holidays, can also be part of racial performance. I'm asking you to reflect. How do you perform your race? Thank you for listening.